My name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders and I'm the head of brand and marketing at 8 Sleep. This is the second time presenting at Hardwired. I think the last one was maybe, 2.5, 3 years ago. So 8 Sleep, for those of you who don't know us, we are a sleep fitness company. We use technology to help people sleep better. We've been around for 5 years. We have over 30,000 people that sleep on our products every night now. We've raised close to $65 million in venture funding. We're a very complicated hardware, direct-to-consumer, e-commerce, digital, health, everything that you could think that is just complicated of building a startup. We basically decided to package it and just been doing it for the last 5 years. So it's been pretty crazy, and I would love to talk about everything that we've gone through. We embarked on this journey not knowing anything about building hardware or consumer product. But I think that for the sake of making this as valuable as possible for all of you, I want to focus on what we've been through for the last 18 months. We've had some very interesting 18 to 24 months that I think have really shaped the company, and I think, speaking from my own perspective, have really shaped a lot of the learnings that I've gathered on how do you launch a product or a service successfully. And by the framework that I'm going to share with you, I think has made us really successful, and I hope it's something that you can apply for your own cases whenever that time comes. And has really made the launch of our most recent product 10 times better than anything we had done in the past. So the way that it started and where we were kind of 18 months ago, just for some context, is our hardware team. By the way, we're based just a few blocks up from here. We're around 50 people in New York City. Everything happens in our office, from product development to sales and support. But our hardware team was working on our next product. We had just raised a Series B from Khosla. We had amazing investors on board. FirstMark's one of our investors from earlier. And we were building this new product that we knew our customers wanted. It's something that they had asked from us when we launched our very first product in 2015. So it had been this journey to just have the capital and the team to be able to build it. And then we had this huge challenge of saying, well, we're building this very innovative thing that no one has in the market. How are we going to position this product? How are we going to make sure that it is more successful than what we've ever sold before? And the reason why we were very concerned about being successful selling this new crazy sleep tech product is that our previous experience had been that when we launched something to market, we were great at capitalizing that early interest, right? At the time in 2015, we put something on crowdfunding. We actually have a whole video that was what our presentation was about last time, of how we made that very successful. We got a lot of interest, a lot of press. We sold, I think, $1.5 million in pre-orders in 60 days. Amazing, great. And then you suddenly go through that throw of sorrows that Paul Graham talks about. And it's really, really painful, right? How do you really build an engine where you're not just relying on these spikes of conversions of some press article and suddenly some influencer posting about it, but that you're really able to figure out the flywheel. Otherwise, your company's never going to be sustainable. And so that's what I was tasked with, and thinking, well, how am I going to figure this out? We haven't been able to figure it out for the last 3 years. And so one of the things that I started thinking about, which is what I want to talk about today, is, well, there's all these companies that seems like they have figured it out, and it's mainly because they've built a community. And the more that I thought about it, I got to the conclusion that actually what I wanted to build was more like a movement. And the reason is because we are a mission-driven company. 8 Sleep was founded 5 years ago because we want to fuel human potential through optimal sleep. Matteo, who's one of my co-founders, my husband, our CEO, he started this company because he was solving his own problem. So it was just, he set on that mission, and all we cared about was to solve his sleep. And eventually, as we started learning about other people, it was other people's sleep. So I thought, well, this really sounds like, when you hear people like Elon Musk talk about taking us to Mars, or changing the way that we transport ourselves, or any kind of very mission-driven entrepreneur. That's what it sounded like to me. And we were not just, saying it, we really felt it. That's what really, even today, I can talk about this all day. It really powers us. And so I said, well, I feel like I can find more people that are really interested in this. So this is the framework that I went about, that we applied, that made us successful, and that has kickstarted the sort of movement that I think is still moving the flywheel for us in 2020 and hopefully beyond. So the very first step that we took is that, it's not just you have to create a fluffy movement and that's just going to happen because people are in love with you. No, you really need to start from identifying the tension, which traditionally when you're building a business or a product, you think of identifying the problem, right? So where does the tension exist for us is that we know that sleep, or the way we see sleep, is that it's a pillar of health. Sleep is really with nutrition, with exercise, another very important component of our health. This is very valuable for us as a brand. A lot of companies in the sleep space that have products that may be very different from ours, but they still talk about sleep from this context of comfort or laziness or coziness. That's not us. For us, sleep is about health. So that is a very, very important angle. And at the same time, even though it's so important for our health, people are sleep deprived, and there's no solutions in the market. So there's a tension, right? There's a need for something that obviously is not being addressed. The products in the market right now are mattresses that are very comfortable. A lot of companies are really good at making those. There are sleep pills that are not really good for you. And there are sleep trackers that give you a lot of data about your sleep, but then there's no solutions, right? So we're like, okay, there's the tension. That's exactly where we fit. So that is step one. I think everyone can identify the tension in their own markets that you're operating in. The second step is that then you need to define a very concise vision. Some of these next few steps, I think, are steps that we tend to either ignore as we're building more like technical products that we think maybe are not as important, but just spend some time doing the exercise by really defining what is your vision? Where do you want to see the world going over the next 10 years? And how is your company going to play a role in that? So for us, there are a few things that are very important in our vision. First, we believe that sleep is something that can be and should be measured, prioritized, and optimized. Again, very distinct from many other companies that operate in the sleep space, right? That is just what we believe. And because of that, then it's going to have an impact on what sort of solutions we build. And so with that in mind, we came up with this concept of if we measure, if we prioritize and we optimize sleep, what is the ultimate state that we want people to achieve? So we invented this concept that we call sleep fitness. And the reason why we invented this concept is that in order for us to drive people to take these actions on sleep, what we noticed is that there was no language that really existed for people to even pursue a healthier state of sleep. Everything in sleep was spoken about in the context of illness. Are you sleep deprived? Do you have insomnia? Do you have sleep apnea? Do you snore? And so we wanted to create that ultimate state of healthy sleep, which we define as sleep fitness. And the third thing that's really important in our vision is that we believe that technology holds the key to sleep fitness. We welcome other companies to build sleep fitness solutions, but maybe they're not doing it with technology. We want to be the first and the best at doing that. We are a technology company at the core. And so with that, it all kind of comes together, right? 8 Sleep is the company that is using technology to help people sleep better. And we have very ambitious goals and very ambitious ideas of how humans will be sleeping 20 years from now, and how our beds are going to look, and how our bedrooms are going to look, and what we're going to be able to achieve because of that. So the next step, which I also think is a step that we tend to ignore, is that if you're really building a movement around your company, your brand, your products, you need to put a face to that movement. It's, again, something we learned from when we started the company, when we launched our first couple of products. I would get certainly a lot of just pushback from Matteo or Max, who's our other co-founder or our CTO, on whether or not we should put Matteo's story at the forefront of what we were building. At the time, for the first year of the company, we were based in San Francisco, very kind of, traditional Silicon Valley, brand doesn't matter, ignore PR, all these sorts of things. And so we're like, no one else is doing it. Tony Fadell's not putting his face on the Nest website, right? Why are we going to do this thing? Doesn't make any sense. Actually has been very successful for us. And the reason is we started the company because of his personal needs. So the more personal we make it, the more people can relate to it. People can understand that we're not doing this just to make money, right? We're doing this because we're solving a problem. So if that is your case, you should really not shy away from just putting your face and telling your story. The first thing that people should know is that the mission behind this and what is driving you. So we try to do that as much as possible. The next step, which is where your product or service comes in, is to build what the movement needs. So we're talking about a movement where we want to fuel human potential through optimal sleep. We believe that technology holds the key to that. We believe that there are other people out there that want these solutions, but we need to build something. Otherwise, we're not really contributing to the movement at all. We're just speaking, and that's not going to take us anywhere. So that's where our product comes in. This is the product that we launched around 11 months. It was 11 months ago. It's February of last year. And so this is the pod. This is the first bed designed to help you sleep better through thermal regulation. This is the product that I was mentioning that people wanted us to build back in 2015. We didn't know how to build it. We didn't have the money to build it. We didn't have the team to build it. And what we've essentially built here is a bed that has sensors integrated in it, thermodynamic technology that adjusts to your biometrics to keep you comfortable all night long. Never too hot, never too cold. So we are tackling the number one problem with sleep, which is temperature. And hopefully in the future, next iterations of the pod will tackle other things, your wake-up experience, the oxygen in your room, the noise, the light. That's kind of what we think about, where the pod is going and where our company is going. And this is the first step in that direction. So this is our contribution to the movement. This is hopefully one of the things that will contribute to all of us achieving those goals that we have for sleep fitness. The pod is accompanied obviously by digital experience. You get all of your data, you control your temperature, you get tools that drive you through behavioral change, insights guided through data, et cetera, et cetera. So happy to answer then any questions about the product more specifically. So then the next step, obviously, after you have a product is that you'll want to sell it. But if you think about this framework through the lens of building a movement, you can think about your sales more as like growing a following. I think it really challenges you to think about sales differently and not just about like, maybe running promotions or just making it cheap so people buy it. Or, it's very different when you really think like every single person that's buying your product should be joining you, not just buying from you. So everything that you build is just, it has a different feeling. You're building a long-term relationship with every one of your customers. For us, it was definitely so impactful to think about even just how we call our customers. We define them members. It forces you to think like these people are here for the long term. So we can't just use them for a sale and then forget about them. So for us, the first thing to grow your following is you need to ship the product. We have certainly been in the cases where we've done pre-orders of products. It gets hard to continue to grow when you don't have your product out there. And the reason why you want to ship it is because if you find the people that are joining for the right reasons, that movement, they receive the product, they're going to start talking about it. So shipping your product really gets that flywheel of growth going. The second thing that was really important for us has always been, so you need to have a strategy for like how you're going to deal with press, how you're going to communicate your product. As much as we may like or hate the media and how much control they have into how information gets spread out, it is very, very, very powerful. So highly recommend that you learn just how to use the media when you are introducing a new product or a new feature. For us, it has always been very successful. These are some of the quotes that we got right around the launch of our product. One of the things actually that we did when we launched the pod, even as few or many years as we have been in the market, it's always obviously a challenge to have many products available when you first launch for review of press. So we've always kind of a little bit handy. A lot of these journalists actually tried the pod in a hotel room where we hosted them for a night. Some of them, maybe they tried it at home, so we had to wait to get the review later. So just trying to figure out and accommodate as much as possible. We always have to work with our hardware team in advance, ask them, we need X number of units a month before, and here's why, and here's the quality they need to have, and software needs to know, these accounts are going to go online. It's an entire team effort that really then gets reflected into what these journalists will say about your product. So then a very important step, obviously, once you've shipped your product, people are using it, they're talking about it, is you want to measure the impact that you're having in that movement. Are you really making a difference? If we exist for the purpose of helping people sleep better, then we need to be measuring, are we helping people sleep better? That's actually our KPI as a company. We have many others, there's sales, there's NPS, CSAT, satisfaction of their support team, but this is the number one thing we think about. And so this stat is probably a couple months old, but with more or less stays within that, like 84 to 90% of people that report sleeping better. So we ask you, how do you feel? Do you feel it has had an impact on your sleep? And then we obviously see people talking about it, which is like super exciting when we see just people tweeting, talking about how they're using it, how it's made an impact in their sleep. So you can go check Twitter's where we get most of our popular commentary. But then we also measure it quantitatively. So we have the data, we see how people are sleeping, so why not use that information to not just go off of like a review that someone may have given you, but just see what is actually happening in the data. So these are some of the stats that we see. on improvements on how much faster people fall asleep. We can see between people who may sleep cooler or not, who are using the temperature feature or not. So it becomes super interesting to see the impact that not only the overall product, but then the different features have, and obviously that shapes what features we're going to build in the future. The second to last step is to let your followers participate. It's something else that we have always done, and it's super impactful. So I found this graph a while back that was pretty interesting. But if you just stop here, we're getting your customers to consume your product. You're missing out on so much. Really, the best way to build that movement is you want to move people up all the way in the participation scale. So for us, is all the way into shaping. So what we've done there is we have built a beta group, and we have over 250 members who have purchased the pod and who opted in to be a part of this group. They get access to features early, so there's a beta version of each of our apps accessible for them. They get access to research, they'll get access to products ahead of time. So, this pool of people that are much more engaged because they get to be a part of what you're building earlier on. And I think particularly for all of us, when you're kind of building something innovative, you will always find some people that are really excited about it and they want to be more of a part of it. So don't be scared of opening the door. Do a standard simple NDA. Ideas are not really worth much, so don't worry about it. And really let them participate. We have learned a lot from them. And the last step is hopefully if you implement all of that and obviously you have a good product or service, you will see the movement grow. And I think that's when it becomes super exciting. For us, some of the things that we've noticed is that as we ship the product, as people started talking about it, it became almost like something that people wanted as part of like their identity. What bed are you sleeping on? Like what type of person are you? You sleep in the pod or you don't sleep on the pod? And so that's made it possible for us to attract tons of athletes. I think probably have 50 or more of them, professional, Olympians, NBA, NFL, every single sport they can think about. Because what we've been able to create with this movement is it's very clear to everyone as we keep a consistent message that 8 Sleep is here because of this mission. We're helping people sleep better. We're using technology. And if you're one of those people, then you might want to check out what we're doing. And that's basically it. So thank you very much. And we'll take some questions.
Awesome, Alex. Thank you so much. Fantastic second presentation. 2 quick questions for me. The name, where'd that come from?
The 8 hours of sleep that you should be getting.
There you go. All right, great. And then the second question I have is, so we had a company in to present probably almost a year ago now called Ember Wave, which does a heat regulating wristband. What percentage do you guys track, like the percentage of the population that it gets very hot or very cold at night, and is that a much larger number than, one might think, or is this, what's the addressable kind of user base in the US look like?
I mean, addressable is everyone that sleeps. Like you actually don't realize how much temperature has an impact on your sleep. Anytime that you wake up in the middle of the night, you have trouble falling asleep, like there's a high likelihood that it's temperature related. There's so many scientific studies that show the relationship between temperature and sleep. The proper temperature can help you fall asleep faster, wake up more refreshed, stay in deep sleep longer. Just so many of the studies have shown that. So I think the challenge is obviously when you just talk on the surface about temperature regulation, the people that instinctively react to it are the ones that remember feeling, generally, they feel hot. And so those are kind of like, that's the immediate market. What we see is of our users, anything, in any given month, it's like 86 to 88% of people are using the smart temperature regulation every single night because it just works on its own, it's automatic, whatever. But they're really users that just once they try it, they don't stop using it. And the cohort retention over the last, 8 months since we shipped it, it's basically flat. So it's just a matter of can we get enough people who are not super sensitive to it to try it. And once they try it, actually when we see most of our members really have the aha moment is the first time they travel and they're not on their pod. And then they're like, whoa, a regular bed is very different.
Awesome. All right, questions? Yeah.
Hey. Hey, so a couple things. First of all, I wanted to say, Personally, I've kind of realized that temperature makes a huge effect on my own sleep. I realize it's been too warm in my room, and I've changed the temperature, and it's been really good. I'm still a little unclear what the actual product is. Is it a mattress? Is it a bed? Is it like a heating layer?
It's the entire bed, the entire mattress, basically. So it's if you look at it from the outside, it looks like a mattress.
Yeah.
It has the technology embedded in that top layer, so it's zipped on. It only works with that entire solution. Let me go back to the image so I can show you. And then you have the little hub. So it's all of this, the mattress.
Not the platform.
And then you have, you can use it on any frame. And then you have that little hub, and that is where you have the Wi-Fi connectivity. It has a water reservoir. There's a very thin layer of water that's running on the top that's actually regulated on temperature.
Cool. Okay, so then here's a question. Did you consider just making like a temperature regulation layer that could be used on any mattress versus the mattress itself, and like what went into that decision?
Yeah, great question. I'm always very transparent when I answer this question. We get it a lot. So one is experience. Our first product was an attachment that would track your biometrics and whatnot, and you can put it on any mattress. And what we found is that comfort does have a very big impact on your sleep. So if we don't build our product to bundle nicely with like the mattress layers, we're not going to give you the optimal experience. So we found like a lot of people, like the attachment didn't fit well or move around, like what it made their mattress firmer or softer. It was a pain. And so we thought, well, maybe it's, we need to sacrifice a little bit the potential of selling higher volume just as an accessory and really build the ideal experience. So that was number one. The second thing is margins. If we sell a product that is bigger and people are used to paying thousands of dollars for, we can actually capture that. Instead, why are we going to let someone else capture $1,000 of the product, and then we'll just capture the remainder? So that was another thing. We actually learned that because when we launched our first product, a lot of traditional mattress companies wanted to license it or acquire it. And we're like, wait, what they do is really easy, what we do is really hard, so why don't we just like capture all of it? So that was another thing that was also important.
Awesome.
So I was going to buy a chili pad, but I think you just convinced me to get this. This space is so untapped. It's amazing. So I'm a fitness, nutrition, and sleep junkie. I've gone through my own personal journey and education, and what's interesting in this space is how few people understand how important it is. And every time I try to talk about it, you almost come across like a zealot on any three of those dimensions. Sleep is one of them. The growing the community, I get that idea, but it's challenging to get that, the person without becoming like an evangelist. You have to be a trusted advisor, but not go too far. So to that end, if I had to make one suggestion, it seems like from what I've been learning, like podcasts seem to be one of those areas where the people have been taught. They have some knowledge. They believe in kind of a central theme and idea. 2, they're very loyal. 3, they really convert very well. I would imagine like someone like sponsorship deals with one of those health-focused podcasts could really, really help. I'm sure your private community is doing great too, but it just seems like that's an area where there's a lot of symbiosis.
Yeah, and that's why we focus on what we call like high performers. So we work with a lot of athletes. We're actually launching in a couple of weeks a big national campaign with an athlete endorsement. It's one of the other things that has been really helpful that we didn't have when we launched our first product is a real narrow focus on one audience. It's sleep. Everyone sleeps. You could just go after anyone, but staying focused has been really helpful because then we're able to like identify. We could go on that podcast. We could go with this person, which is obviously more valuable, but also better. Your spend goes a longer way.
Awesome. I think we have time for one more.
How do you plan on shifting your sales strategy when this becomes copycatted? Say in 5 to 7 years? I mean, imagine at some point you have to ditch the hardware and focus on software.
Yes. Actually, 2 weeks ago, Sleep Number, who's a public company, launched a literal copy of the pod. Like literal. They're going to ship it in 2021. So I think this applies to anyone. And in hardware, we think about like how it becomes a commodity eventually. It's like easy to disassemble and copy. Software is our ability to use Okay, one, our ability to continue to innovate faster than the bigger companies, right? We've proven that we can do that. We're ahead of anyone. We're 2 years ahead than anyone. We're already launching our next product in a few months. So we need to keep that speed, which I think startups are well positioned to do. And the second is, software, our ability to use data to not only create the perfect environment as we continue to innovate with more sensors, with other technology, to regulate other things around you, and use that data to create behavioral change loops. So how do we apply the same things that other companies have been successful at doing with physical activity or with nutrition or mental health and apply it to sleep, which I think that's a real untapped market. People believe that sleep is something you can't control and you can't work on. We have proof that that's not true. We've been running some of these kind of behavioral change loops with our existing member base, and that's like a part that we'll continue to innovate on. So there are 2 areas that we need to be very strategic about.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for returning to Hardwired.
Thank you.